Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
I wanted to share something that happened this week in our congregation. We have on Sunday morning a learner's minyan. And it's primarily populated by the children in the Learning Center, although adults attend too. And the men's club approached me and they said, when we have our monthly breakfast, may we have a separate service? And so my first reaction was to be incredibly irritated. Right? We're one congregation. We should all pray together. We're one community. And I felt my heart hardening like Pharaoh, becoming entrenched in my own righteousness, right? You all could come, and you could sit among the children and teach them how to stay on the right page number, and you could help them rap to fill in, and you have a responsibility to teach the next generation how to pray. How can you go off and want to do your own thing? But then I thought about it, and I thought about what their objections might be. They are looking for a traditional weekday morning minyan, and they don't want to be interrupted by teachings or needing to refocus a child's attention. They have a different need for their Sunday morning praying. Now, I just have to put a few caveats out there. I am not against the men's club. You know, the next week you might find me advocating for the men's club against another constituency in the synagogue. And I would also say I'm not trying to pick on the men's club or the learning center or the rabbi. I think at different points, each demographic in our community has put their own needs first and is baffled at the pushback of, wait, we're one big community. We have to work together, right? It's very easy to think when we want a particular date on the synagogue calendar or to use a particular room, or maybe there's a policy that's been put in place by the ritual committee or the board that rankles us. Right? We all have the feeling that we're totally right and everyone else is a little loopy. So how does this play out in our story? Throughout the 10 plagues, there has been this trope, this repeating line, where Moses will come to Pharaoh and he'll say, "Let my people go to worship our God." And occasionally Pharaoh said, "Maybe," and then he always reneges. But after the plague of the hail, it seems like Pharaoh's really ready to sit down at the negotiation table. He's more serious this time. And he says to Moses, he asks him a question. Mi v'mi hahochim? Okay, if you go and worship your God, who exactly would need to go? Now, I think some of us have experienced this moment. Perhaps we've been in an acrimonious relationship with a spouse or with a family member, maybe with a business partner. And there's been a lot of pain and there's been a lot of quarreling. And we reach the point where we say, if we don't sit down and work this out, we're going to lose everything. There are things that are still worth saving, and perhaps we don't want the collateral damage and the expense that would come with severing the relationship. So we finally sit down with the person, and we think we're ready. We think that our hearts are soft and ripe and open for reunion and compromise, and we say, what would it take for us to work this out together? So Moses responds to Pharaoh, and he tells him exactly who the mi v'mi hahochim would be. He says everyone would need to go. He says our young, our old, our sons, our daughters, our flocks, and our herds. And Pharaoh loses his stuff, right? Because from Pharaoh's point of view, this is not possible. There is no way he can bend this far. I mean, think about it. Moses is asking for Pharaoh's entire labor force. If Moses walks out with everyone, he's not coming back from Pharaoh's point of view. So Pharaoh decides, hey, I'm a reasonable guy. We're here at a negotiation table. I'll put out the next pawn. And he says, I don't think everyone can go, but you can send your males, your young males. Because Pharaoh says, I know about Jewish worship. I have the inside scoop on how this is done. And I know that only adult males are required to make the sacrifice. So he says, take your men. And Moses, from his point of view, he cannot comprehend how Pharaoh thinks this is some sort of compromise. Because here's what's going on in Moses' head, and I'll use the Kli Yakar, a commentator, to illustrate the point. Pharaoh is correct. Adult males are the ones required for the sacrifice. But everyone in the community is required for the joy of the celebration. And the Kli Yakar points out that at some points in the Torah, when it's talking about a celebration, a holiday for God, it says, Ladonai, this is for God. And at other points, when the Torah is talking about a ceremony, a celebration for God, it says, Lachem, for y'all. We have both aspects in a celebration. And so the Kli Yakar says it's true that the adult males need to go and make the sacrifice, but they won't have any joy unless their wives, their children, their older people are there with them. I mean, imagine if you showed up on Shabbat morning and we had a shliach tzibor, but no congregation. What kind of a Shabbat service would that be? You need everyone to feel the joy. And so Moses looks at Pharaoh dumbfounded. And then here's where it really dissolves. Before Moses can even respond, Pharaoh says, and I know because you asked for this, you're up to no good. You're up to mischief. He has calcified his heart. He came to the negotiation table thinking he was ready to really listen to what the other party needed, and instead he jumps to conclusions about what their motivations are. They're not serious about negotiations. They ask for everyone. I'm going to put my foot down. Well, how can Moses respond to this insult? And the Torah tells us exactly what happens next. Pharaoh tells his guards to kick Moses and Aaron out. And then the locusts come. And then the darkness comes. And then the death of the firstborn comes. What a cost. What a cost for not being able to find the common ground and really put yourself in someone else's shoes. What was going on with Pharaoh? Samson Raphael Hirsch puts it so beautifully. He says, for as soon as enjoyment becomes the object of your life, you no longer regard yourself as belonging to the world, but rather the world as belonging to you. And you know no law but your own capricious impulses. For that moment, you too will no longer understand what is meant by unselfishness. You will see in every creature around you a being which obeys only itself and works only for itself. And the world will split for you into a crowd of godlike beings, pharaohs, obeying only themselves. What if Pharaoh's heart had remained open? What if Moses had stood at that negotiation table and said, wait, don't throw me out. We can work this out together. Think of the tragedy that would have been spared. So what was my response to the men's club after I was done losing my temper, to the poor messenger that had brought the message? I said, I want you to go back to the men's club and say, surely we can find a way to pray together. Please ask them to send some representatives to come and talk to me so I can hear what it is that they're needing, so I don't make assumptions. And I'll tell them what we're needing from the Learning Center point of view. And maybe we can find a way to do this together. And what will our common ground be in this negotiation? The values of our Torah and the love that we each feel for this community. And what will be the results of this negotiation? Well, that remains to be seen. Yes?
I think the issue is scheduling, because you've got to go from 9 to 9:30, 9:30 to 9:10 is schmoozing and eating, and then 10 to 11. So that may be where the real root cause is. Maybe we can shift it from 8:30 to 9 in Ben's opinion, and then from 9 to 9:15, we can take time to show them how to do each other and read Torah.
So I hear you sharing what the men's club's needs are. That is wonderful. I look forward to having that conversation in my office together a little later in the week. Okay. We will all find ourselves in positions of conflict, and we'll find ourselves convinced that we can only see the world through the primacy of our own needs. and everybody else's needs are secondary. Like Pharaoh, we can find our hearts calcifying. The question is, how do we move past that to the common good? May we all be blessed with hearts of flesh, not hearts of stone. Shabbat Shalom.